Welcome to East 4x4, home of the Bob Excursion. But today, we're not working on the Excursion at all. It kind of replaced the Excursion, I guess, for some people. We are going to lift a 2021 Toyota 2022 Toyota Sienna. And we've got the Journeys Off-Road lift kit. And I just wanted to go through the parts and talk about Journeys Off-Road for just a second before we get started. I have already installed one of their lifts on the Astro van. If you guys have not seen those videos, I'll put it up there. And I really, really like their lift. And so when another friend said, what should I get for my Toyota? I said, Journeys Off-Road. So I've got everything set out here. These are the strut extensions. These are the rear coil spring spacers. And then we've got a little bit of hardware for probably brake lines, and it comes with Moog extended sway bar links, which is pretty awesome, so you get a good quality sway bar link. And then we've got some camber adjustment brackets to get the camber right once we get this thing up. So definitely going to need an alignment when it's done, but we are going to put this on here and get it set up the best we can. And yeah, let me make sure I got everything on here. Yeah, shock relocation brackets are another thing that it comes with. It's got individual bolts and brackets for each side. So pretty cool little setup. So anyway, we're gonna get started. We're gonna show you guys how to do this. Try and do a little bit more step-by-step than we've done before, but try not to bore you. So anyway, before we get started, just hit that subscribe button, and let's get rolling. There is a nice, they did a really nice job. There's a piece of the frame that's not skid plated. Alright, so first challenge in an off-road shop was getting a jack underneath it, because I have the Badlands Monster Jack, and my old Craftsman doesn't pump anymore because I've let it leak out too far. So the cool thing that Toyota did was there is actually a place in the center that doesn't have a skid plate, a plastic skid plate on it, that you could put a jack in the center of the front. So nice job, Toyota. We're going to clean out all the leaves along here. We've got to get to these shock towers. This one's more buried on the driver's side, but yeah, we're going to get into these shock towers and put a spacer on top of the entire strut, shock, coil spring, that whatever you want to call it. But yeah, that's what we're doing first. So the windshield wiper bolts are a 14 millimeter. What do you got down there? 17 millimeter on the sway bar links. So you need a 14 and a 17 so far. The windshield to cowl seal that they're talking about. This is a little piece of rubber that goes from this rubber on the windshield to down here. You pull it off very carefully. It kind of clips together, and then it kind of pivots off of this pin at the bottom. So there's a little pin in here, and then there's two pins there. Comes off pretty easily. So just be careful, don't break these little pins. So. Little push pin. These Toyota ones, I guess, they just kind of push down the center, and if you pop it up, they came right out. So that's like the easiest push pin I've ever removed. Good job. All right. Okay, so there's this little rail down in here that goes into a groove, and I took a pair of needle nose and very carefully got it started. I'm going to see if I can work along here and get that to come out. Be very careful because you don't want to pry on the glass because that's not going to turn out well. Yeah, so you're trying to pull this little rail, this little thin rail, out of the groove that's right on the bottom of the windshield. So be careful. It does come out once you get it started and you just pull back with your fingers. It feels really nice on the tips of your fingers. Yeah. Kind of cool. Toyota, when you get behind these things, you have these little clips in them. You just push on the back of these and they pop right out. So I really like that design. It's, gets it to where we can pull that out pretty easily. We can figure out how to get these two off. And then I think this panel comes out. So I don't know. They're all the same size bolts, which is awesome. So, good job on that, Toyota. Alright, so the next step you should take when you're working on the wheel well at the beginning, you're going to pull off that sway bar completely, and then you're going to start taking this ABS line. So this is the ABS line. You're going to take this bolt out, and then you're going to unbolt it from down here on the spindle itself. And then we're going to take these two bolts off. One of these is going to be replaced with a cam bolt that you can adjust the caster with, or camber with, I think. And then we're going to pull this shock out of here, put a spacer on the top of it, and the front of it's going to be lifted. Pretty freaking sweet. So we're going to pull this out of there. Make sure you don't lose that bolt. I'm going to just put it right back in there. Because it's going to hold on my brake line and my ABS sensor when I get done here. And then we're going to go underneath here, and I can't even see it yet. Gotta see. Oh yeah, there it is. This size. Yep, it's that size. It's great. Same. This is a 10 millimeter. Use it up on the stuff underneath the cowl too. So you got same size bolts. That's pretty nice. Do same thing with that little guy. And you're gonna wiggle this ABS sensor out of there. It's a really long ABS sensor in these, so just be very careful with that. You don't want to break that. It's an expensive part. And then pop that thing off of there with this ABS sensor hanging over here out of the way. I'm gonna put this bolt back in. You need to be careful when you drop these lower mounts because this CV shaft only has so much motion. So if you let this drop out, you're gonna have to reline the CV shaft back up, which you probably saw me struggling with just for a second there. I'm gonna make sure we keep it up in there. The hard part is there's not a whole ton to tie it to. We're gonna use some big zip ties and go to the sway bar, I think is what I'm gonna do. Keep this in there, and then we'll cut it back when we're ready to put it back on. I've got a jack stand underneath the arm so the arm can't go all the way down, and then I'm going to make sure that this can't flop out. So yeah, fun stuff. Yeah, so that zip tie is going to be just enough to keep that from flopping out. And then we're going to go over to the other side, do the same thing, and pull the top bolts on these struts. These things will be out of here. Gotta make sure we don't damage the CV boots when we drop them out. And then we'll snake them back in here, get this arm to lower back down a little bit. So we're gonna have some more length in this shock here. So pretty cool stuff. These two bolts on the lower are 22 millimeters. So 22 in an impact, rip them right off. Those are supported. These things are kind of out of the way. I'm going to go back up top and drop these here struts on it out of there. Okay, so we got 3 bolts on the top of that, and then it's got this mount, and the mount has an arrow on it, and then the strut is going to drop out of there. This mount has an arrow on it. This is the mount for this piece, so make sure you don't lose that. So we're going to drop the strut out of here as carefully as we can. And there we go. So we're going to take this, show you guys what this is doing here. So we are going to put this right on here, whatever way it goes. At some point it'll go on there, I hope. Yeah, it only goes on there one way, which is pretty awesome because they have it leaned and stuff like that. And then we should have a new set of bolts. We're going to use the new set of nuts on the top, and we're going to put the original set of nuts back on this. We're going to Loctite these because you're never going to see these again, and you don't want them to come loose. So these original bolts that came off there are 14 millimeter. Let's see, the ones that are going back on are not a 14 millimeter. They're probably standard instead of a metric, but they're going to go. You're going to use them on the Journey supplied studs. You're going to use the original bolts on the original studs. So we're going to put some Loctite on these guys, cinch them down, and drop this thing right back in that side. We'll pull the second side out. So yeah, you want to leave this top bolt. Want to try not to spin the top hat of it too much because then you won't have the bottom of it facing the right way. So most of this is not a 2-person job. You just saw that was really nice to have 2 people because one can hold it from the bottom, the other one can throw the nuts on the top, and that's not trying to fall on your face. Now we're going to throw these bolts back in on the bottom, tighten the top up, then we'll throw the bolts back in on the bottom and reassemble. We're going to put the new sway bar link on. We are going to make sure that we don't need to relocate any of the brake lines and stuff like that. And yeah, we're going to put the right bolts in the right places. So we'll show you guys that. We'll get going on it. Journey supplied bolts are 15 millimeter. All right, you're gonna see me take it apart again, just for fun, because we didn't put the mount back on. Remember I told you guys about the mount that I shouldn't forget? This one right here? Yeah, we're not gonna forget it. We're just gonna do it twice, just for fun. Okay, so we pulled the zip tie out that was holding the wheel assembly up here, and we've got it lined up. We've got to jack up the lower control arm a little bit so that we can line these bolt holes back up. we're gonna put the adjustment supplied by Journeys Off-Road, this camber adjustment bolt in here. Okay, so I put both of those bolts in there now. We are gonna tighten this guy down, and then we're gonna try and eyeball the camber a little bit because we're not gonna get it aligned instantly, and we're gonna try and make the camber look halfway decent. This goes on with this washer facing out. It's got some grip things on it that are gonna go against as it tightens down, and then it kind of slides through. It's a smaller bolt, but it gives the ability to move this thing in and out like that. So yeah, that's what that does. So there's a little tab on the inside of this washer that goes inside of the hole that's in the strut. And then this is gonna go on the other side. And then as you turn this now, it's gonna move this top end in and out. And so when they go to align it, they will be able to make the caster to where you're not gonna wear the inside of the outside of the tire and make it perfect with the lift. So pretty awesome that they supply that. You gotta go higher. Alright, so we have got the front done. We noticed it was a beautiful day outside, so we're in here working on the back now. We flipped it, or we didn't flip it around, just came over here to the back. We're going to jack it up and figure out what the back needs. We're going to get out the instructions again and follow right along and show you guys what we're doing. So let's get started. Alright, so we are going to dive into the back here. We got the wheels off, and we are going to start back to the instructions, because for once I'm reading the instructions. I've never lifted a Toyota Sienna before, so luckily Journeys Off-Road has got a pretty good instruction thing, and I'm trying to show you even more in depth. So the first thing they want us to do is pull the pull the brake line off of the upper control arm here. So we're going to take this single bolt in the center out here and get this whole bracket coming off. Now we've got this whole bracket off, so we can drop this thing down now. We're going to relocate this at some point. So I don't know if we need to pull all these bolts out, but I will show you guys that when we get it there. So this is like this little bracket that keeps it around this arm. So yeah, that's the first step in the rear. And then grab our instructions again. So we're going to take this out. We're going to take the shock bolt out first. We're going to drop it down. And then we're going to be able to drop this down, get tension off of this spring, and pull this spring out. Just make sure you have a jack under this. This can jump at you, but if you're really slow with the jack and careful, coil springs are not that big of a deal. So anyway, we're going to pull this blower shock bolt, this bolt, and hopefully we have it high enough that we can drop this spring down and get the spacer in there. All right, so we had some fun putting this together. The bottom is definitely a little bit sketchy, so plan to be a little bit sketched out, but just take your time and do it easier. We're going to show you in detail on the other side. My phone died, so this is on a separate phone. We got this shock relocation upper bracket on here. We've got the brake line relocation bracket. And come in here real close. That goes on the top bolt. You don't have to pull this bolt. You're gonna wanna pull the top bolt on it, and you're gonna put this bracket in, and then this is the new bolt that Journey's supplied, and you just put it right on the brake line right here. Tighten that sucker down, and that gets you enough movement here that you're not gonna mess with the brake line. So awesome job there. And then everything else just goes back together. We've got the spacer in here now. You can see the bottom of the coil spring right here, and everything put back together. So getting close on the driver's side. Okay, so we are done with the other side, and we are now going to set this one up a little bit differently. We've changed, you guys saw me take out the middle bolt and remove the whole brake line hanger. We just ended up putting that back. We took the top bolt out like I showed you on the other side, put the brake line hanger in here. I'm gonna take the shock completely out on this side and do the whole thing with the shock out, but I am gonna put this bracket in. So this is their shock relocation bracket. So come on in here with the camera, and it goes right on these original bolts right here. And then you just put the original nuts back on it. And the shock mounts about half an inch lower, maybe a whole inch. Now we are going to go take off the sway bar. We're actually going to jack up the center of the van again and put our jack stands higher so that we can maybe get the jack down on the control arms before, so we don't have to move the jack to the center and then move it back and do all that stuff. So we're going to jack this thing up a little bit, try and get it higher, and then we're going to reset and come back and start playing with the arm and everything like that. So try and make this one a little bit less sketchy. It's a little weird the way those arms kind of fit together and come apart and stuff like that, but we're getting it, and you guys can do it too. It's not that hard. Just take your time. Okay, so we are supporting the lower control arm again. It is a 19 millimeter. So just back there, get a 19 for the front. Run this thing all the way out with the ratchet. It's not going to come all the way out, but it did twist and do something fun. Alright, so I pulled it out, did the same trick, put the wrench around there, pulled it as I spun it. That is our lower bolt setup. So now, we need to, if we pry this thing forward a little bit, it actually comes around this mount. Or I think it'll come around this mount. Go up. More. So we want to do that. We want to get this out around this lip right here, and then we can drop this arm freely. When we bring it back up, we're running a ratchet strap up to the front. We're going to bring it straight down. Push the jack this way as you go down. We're going to try and keep it centered as we go down, because last time it went backwards. Actually, it doesn't matter that much going down. No. It matters a lot more going up. So we're gonna, you can drop it. So this is now free. It's like my sway bar's caught. Put the jack underneath it. So if your sway bar gets caught, come in here and pull the sway bar out of here. Wow, we've got a lot of tension on it. Just got sideways in there. So keep coming with the jack. Okay, that's it. Alright, now I got the sway bar. The mount of the sway bar went a little bit sideways and it caught. Go slow. Down. So now we just gotta make sure the sway bar is not attached to it. Keep going. Alright, and there we are. We are free. So now we can push this down, pull our coil out. You can see this is the top spacer and the bottom spacer is laying down here, in here. Same thing. I'm gonna grab our Journeys off-road setup. This spacer is gonna go here, or this little isolator, and then this is gonna go, we're gonna put it into the oblong hole that's like going up into the car. There's one that goes this way and there's one that goes that way, and I put the other one up into the one that goes up into the car. So we do this, set it on top of there, and then we gotta bring it down. We're gonna have a friend hold it down, set this spring up here, and then we're gonna set it on it and bring it up with the jack again. In a very easy spot to film. What is that? Okay, so you can see you got the spring sitting in there now. What we're gonna do next, you want to take your time. This can be very sketchy. We want to put this jack right in here, and it's gonna get locked in there. And then you can notice we're gonna hit the bottom of it. We're gonna bring it over slowly. You want to make sure this thing lines up. It'll walk its way in. There it is. And just gonna kind of bring it up a little bit. We need to go put our ratchet strap on this thing because it's already starting to walk backwards. So we're gonna go do the ratchet strap. We're gonna grab it really quick. So we are putting our strap around the front wheel. I'm gonna put it around the inside so it doesn't scratch it. And then we're gonna come back here, see if we can get this. Last time we put it in kind of a sketchy spot. I like it to be in a different spot. Let's try it right in here. All right, so you need a ratchet strap on this because the control arm inevitably wants to go backwards as it goes up. So we're gonna tie it right there, spin this puppy around. We're gonna put this up as high as this bottle jack will go. I'm thinking that I would say a bottle jack is required for this install. So that's as high as that's gonna go. We're gonna bring in our other jack and bring it up the rest of the way. But you can't get the other jack underneath it when the arm is like this. So having a bottle jack, you could even use the jack that's with the pin probably. You just want to get it in here and get it to a point where you can use this. Okay, now we got another jack on it. We're going to come up nice and slow. What you want to watch for this as we come up, talk about it, you want to make sure that you're not coming off your jack stand. As soon as you start coming off of your jack stand, that's when you're going to want to start pushing this down because this wants to be up. So you want to just kind of watch this. When it starts wanting to come off the jack stand, we're going to push it down. We're going to get this thing back aligned. So keep coming up here. It got pretty close last time before it decided to come out. So let's see. It kind of clips underneath that. I'm going to put a little bit of tension back on that so it stays. And then I'm going to push it down and we got to pull this thing out and get it back aligned. So this is like the toughest part of this install here is trying to get this bolt here aligned back up because this doesn't really want to come out. The way it's mounted, it just doesn't really want to come out. And so we are using pry bars and as much brute strength as we possibly can and try not to hurt ourselves at the same time. So take the bolt, I'm gonna get it ready. So this side, the other side, we ended up loosening a bunch of things. We loosened this bolt and we took off this bolt and it made it come down. It seemed like a little bit better. So I'm gonna take off this bolt with this wishbone thing. Again, I showed you guys that on the other side, but didn't talk about it much further. I'm just gonna loosen it so that this arm can move. And I'm gonna do the same thing to this one up here. If I can find my impact. There it is. I want to tell you that only moved it like...
I know, I saw it. I'll push it up against the wall.
An eighth of an inch. Oh, there it goes. Getting close there. That's really close.
Oh, yeah, you just put it back. but I'm just wondering if I twist it.
Oh, there you go, almost.
Wow.
Oh.
All right, so to get that thing in there, to get this thing to move enough, we ended up pulling this upper control arm bolt out of there. We left this whole wishbone assembly in there, whatever, trailing arm, whatever you want to call it. We got this thing out of there. It's still really hard to get in that. That bolt, you need somebody else. You need a breaker bar. You just got to get this whole setup out, and it doesn't want to come out. There's a wishbone here attaching it to the chassis. There's this thing attaching it to the chassis. I wish that this bottom wishbone could come out, but the bolt is in it to where it hits this front mount. So you're kind of stuck with what we're doing and what you just saw us do. And it's a deal, but it's very doable, but it's not that easy. So now I gotta put this thing back in there, and we'll get this thing figured out. All right, so we are about getting done here, and just want to point out that you are lifting a Toyota Sienna, and stuff is not necessarily meant for this. So you're gonna have bolts that don't line up. You're gonna have things you got to push and twist and stuff like that. You'll notice I'm nicely out of breath because we have been pushing and pulling and slamming things together that it does go back together and it does work. But be patient and prepare to use all your pry bars and all your strength. Yeah, that's it. All right, we have now fully installed it. We're gonna go check the Journeys thing and then go online and just get some bolt torques and just double check that we've got everything torqued down to factory specifications. And yeah, this thing is complete. Throw the wheels back on, torque them, and got a lifted Toyota Sienna. We're gonna show it to you guys in just a second. All right, tire is going back on the rear here. And we'll get this thing on the ground, see what it looks like. There. All right, so we have fully installed the Journeys Off-Road 3-inch kit on this 2022 Toyota Sienna. We are torquing the wheels to 76 foot-pounds. That is the wheel load torque on this particular vehicle. Really interesting. This is a 5-on-4.5 bolt pattern. So if the owner wants to go do Jeep wheels or do something like that and get a little offset where we can get the tires out of this thing, he can do that really easily because it's the same as a Jeep load pattern. Pretty wild. But anyway, yeah, this thing went on pretty simple. Definitely some stuff in the back that we had to fight with, but it was very doable. And if I would 100% suggest 2 people and 100% suggest a bottle jack and yeah, just some patience. So not too bad of a install there. Hopefully this video wasn't too boring. We'll see how this comes together. And yeah, super nice. We're gonna go see how it drives, and we'll get you guys some cool roller shots and stuff.